This is Pod Populi, podcast for the people.
Hey there, and welcome to the Cinnamon Effect podcast. I'm your host, Kimberly, and I'm thrilled to have you with me on this vibrant journey of discovery and growth. This podcast is your go-to space for embracing intention, where you'll find clarity on your unique path, deepen those meaningful connections, and unleash your creativity like never before. We'll explore how to build unshakable confidence and celebrate the beauty of gratitude, all while savoring the calm that consistency brings to our lives. Thank you for being with me. Let's sprinkle a little cinnamon into your day and make life sweeter, healthier, and more fulfilling. Welcome back to the Cinnamon Effect. I'm Kimberly, and today I'm here with JW Wiseman. In 2015, after a personal decision to consume less alcohol, JW founded Curious Elixirs, a booze-free cocktail company whose mission it is to redefine how people drink socially by providing delicious, complex, and healthy adult beverages packed with adaptogens. And you were the first. You were the first brand in America to revolutionize the non-alcoholic beverage category.
That's right.
Right?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. When we looked around, back in, over a decade ago now, I was looking to cut back after a night of 20 drinks in one night. And I woke up the next day without a hangover, and that scared the crap out of me. And, as I started drinking less, I was like, I'm getting real tired of having club soda with a lime. And
Yes.
so I was just like, hey, I want to make something that's sophisticated and want to make something that makes my body feel good. Like, what can I use to make my body feel good instead of alcohol? And the answer was adaptogens. And so just had to go real deep on that. And I really learned a lot from, the founder of Daily Harvest. I was running marketing for this superfood smoothie and soups company. And that's Rachel Drury at Daily Harvest is how I first learned about functional herbs and adaptogens. And I just went deep on that. And I was like, well, if I can make a non-alcoholic Negroni, why can't I also make it boost my serotonin and dopamine with rhodiola? So that's kind of what we started doing. And we were definitely a flavor first company. But function, and adaptogens have been kind of like the secret second mission of the company to educate people that there's a whole class of plants out there that we co-evolved with that make you feel good.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned Daily Harvest. I have used them off and on for years. And adaptogens really, people talk about them a lot now, I think, but back then you were really on the forefront of that as well.
Yes. You know, and I think that it's just kind of everything old is new again because, in the West, we didn't grow up, most households didn't grow up knowing about these different plant allies,
Mm-hmm.
that different roots and herbs, you might know like, oh, coffee, gives me some caffeine and gives me a boost. That's a functional plant. But
Mm-hmm.
we didn't know about anything else really. It wasn't part of the culture. And so that's why we're trying to change the culture for people that are curious can say, oh, well, how do I feel after I have this Curious number 1 with rhodiola in it? Or how do I feel after having the ashwagandha in Curious number 3? And find the ones that are most helpful for you because everybody is different, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like my wife can't have a cup of coffee. Like it'll give her heart palpitations. But
Mm-hmm.
for our sales team in the back, they got to have their coffee.
Yeah.
It's just different.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with your wife. I don't do coffee at all either. So I'm like very, very sensitive with all of that. Um, at what point in your non-alcohol, like when you decided you're going to cut back and you're not going to drink as much alcohol, did you go cold turkey? Did you kind of ease into it?
It's been a gradual shift. So,
Mm-hmm.
after that crazy night of the 20 drinks, where I was really chasing the dragon to see how far I could go, the next day I was like, oh, that's not good that I don't have a hangover. And so I decided to do a little research and I found out that for the average human, it takes about 30 hours for your body to metabolize alcohol completely out of your system. So my theory was, okay, if I take off 48 hours every week from having anything, maybe that'll reset my tolerance. And it did. So I started taking off Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. And, so basically from Saturday night until Tuesday evening, I would have no alcohol. And that was that way for the next, call it 3 years. And as I was doing that, I was tinkering in my kitchen. I was trying to make something that was sophisticated and complex. I wasn't thinking this is going to be a company. I was thinking, can I make something delicious
Mm.
that I want to drink and that I want to take out to parties? So when I go to house parties, I would take, one of my concoctions. And being a big cocktail nerd for years, you know, it made me really happy to see that one night, we were opening a new hotel. I was an investor in a hotel in Rockaway Beach in Queens. And I put out a big jar, with a spigot, and all it said was Curious number 1 on it. And people kept going back to that and drinking that more than the stuff with the alcohol. And
Mm.
this was a mixed crowd. It wasn't people that were like sober or total drunks. It was somewhere in between. And I was like, oh, they're just drinking it because it's delicious. And they keep going back to it. So maybe there's something here. That was kind of like a little spark right there that maybe there's something more here than meets the eye. Maybe this can be a business. But that was 2013. That was a really long time ago.
Wow. So how long did it take you to develop the first recipe?
So took about another 18 months after that,
Mm.
where
Mhm.
I was like, okay, maybe there's a business here. And then I started reading a lot more. I started getting serious about it. And in May of 2015, I was like, okay, we should launch, we should get this together. Let's find somebody who can help us make this a reality. And 6 months later, I was watching Martha Stewart speak. And because I was kind of like, do I shit or get off the pot here? Like, do I make this happen? Should I really be doing this? And watching Martha speak, somebody asked her, was there ever a time when you doubted yourself, when the chips were down, when you thought that maybe this isn't going to work out? No hesitation. She was like, nope, never, not once. And her unshakable confidence just struck me like a lightning bolt in that moment. And I was like, we're starting Curious. Let's go. I can borrow that Martha energy and it's time to go. And you fast forward 9 years from there, and we're serving Martha Stewart Curious Elixir number 7, and she's now a fan. So it's just crazy how things can kind of like cycle back, and they can
Yeah.
come back. And that's kind of how it got started. But we launched on Kickstarter, raised a little bit of money, and started making 500 bottles a week on Main Street in Beacon, New York, in the Hudson Valley.
Wow. Now, because you were such an early adapter of this non-alcoholic boom, were people like, "Oh, that's a crazy idea." I mean, did you feel like there was a
Oh
lot
yeah.
of resistance? Like, how did you get people to buy in on the concept of a non-alcoholic beverage company?
Well, first it was by doing the Kickstarter to make sure that we had the proof of concept that we could get hundreds of people to buy this before it was on shelves anywhere. And because I had an e-commerce background, I knew that I could sell this online if I can find the right people. Doing my research, I learned that these are numbers from 2015 and the numbers have only grown. But 75 million adult Americans don't drink alcohol at all, like total, like they don't drink it at all. Another 90 million adult Americans drink 2 or fewer alcoholic drinks a week. That alone is a massive addressable market.
Mhm.
165 million adults right there that don't drink. I was certain that a large percentage of those people would want to have something that was well crafted, delicious, and celebratory, just made just for them.
What was the first recipe? What does the first recipe consist of? Curious number 1.
Curious number 1 is designed to be evocative of a Negroni, but
Okay.
a sparkling one, like a Negroni Spagliato. But we're not trying to make anything that is like an exact copy of an alcoholic drink. And the reason why is because one of my friends, one of my best friends in the world, he's been sober for a dozen years. And when I was asking him about this, like, what would you want in a non alcoholic drink? And people in the recovery community routinely say this. They don't want something that tastes too much like what they used to get drunk on. They want something different. So it's not going to trigger them. So we decided to make something that still has some bitterness, some herbaceousness, but it's something specifically for people who either don't drink or are cutting back. It's something new. It's something that is not going to trigger people. It's something that they can say, this was made for people like me who are cutting back or who don't drink at all. And I decided to make it somewhere between a Negroni Sbagliato and like a really dry Lambrusco, like a sparkling red wine finish that finishes dry. Because we don't have any refined sugars in any of our drinks. This also came from my learning from like working with Whole30 and Daily Harvest and stuff like that. People don't want a lot of sugar, like we have natural fruit sugars from the organic fruits that we use, but that's it, and the way your body handles that, I've been learning more and more over the years. It handles it different if it's fruit sugar or if it's refined sugar. So that's kind of one of the reasons why Curious Number One is something that's like based on a top 5 selling cocktail globally, the Negroni, but it's also a little different, which is also going to make it unique. And it's not going to end up being a commodity product, like how many versions of a different, like, Coca-Cola or Pepsi are there out there? There's a lot. But ultimately, we're trying to make something that's specific and unique and celebratory for people. That's what it's all about. Something that you can feel good when you crack one open with a friend, and you know that you're going to come back to it because it's a little different.
Yeah, I've tried multiple. Do you have nine recipes now?
And we have 9, and we just launched our 10th one, which is Curious Zero right here, which is our first craft brew. So it's like similar to a craft beer, but it's also not.
Okay.
Again, it's like trying to be something a little unique.
It doesn't taste like beer.
It has some of the same, it has like hops and it has roasted barley. So it has some of that beer vibe to it. But it's not trying to be like something that you've had before. It's trying to be something unique that is like, wow, this is refreshing like a light lager, but it's got something else going on. In this case, it's got like a little bit of an earthiness and a touch of sea salt and a touch of clarified lime juice, so that there's a little bit brighter acidity to it mixed with this earthiness. And what makes it different than anything else on the planet is that it's got lion's mane to boost your brain and maca root to lift your libido. So you're going to come off of this feeling great.
Oh, I love that. That sounds very special.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to make special stuff.
Yeah. Was the name Curious Elixirs, was it based off of like sober curious?
Curious Elixirs actually predates the term sober curious.
Okay.
So, Ruby Warrington, who, coined the term sober curious, she coined that in 2018. And, so Curious Elixirs came before. But she put the perfect name to this movement that was hiding in plain sight. These people that are looking to drink less or are just frankly curious about what life looks like with less alcohol. She coined the perfect term for it. And that certainly helped accelerate, the acceptability of drinking less or not drinking at all. Because before, there's kind of like this stigma around like, oh, are you in recovery? Are you pregnant? Like, what's going on with you? And now it's just kind of like there's less stigma around it. There's still some, and depending on where you are and what your community is. But now it's a lot easier for people to just say like, oh, I'm not drinking. And people are like, cool. Like it's not necessarily anybody's business unless they want to share their story with you.
Yes. I find that too. I stopped drinking in 2021. And, I would say then, even then, which is only a couple of years ago, it was like people had a lot of questions. I've addressed it on this podcast too, where I was like you, where over time I started to evaluate and I put these rules on it. Well, I'm not going to drink Monday through Friday, but then I'm going to drink on Saturday. But then I spent the next few days kind of recovering from that hangover feeling. And I was like, okay, this is not working either. So finding what worked. And then finally it was just like, yeah, I don't think this fits in. I don't think this fits into my goals. or anything. So I'm just gonna let it go. And it's been
Wow.
the best decision I've ever made.
That's
So
amazing. Yeah, I
yeah.
love that. I love that. Yeah,
Yeah.
for me, it's like it's just gone down and down and down and down. And you know, I am not like completely sober. Like I still have maybe one, maybe two drinks a month.
Hmm.
Um, and a lot of that, but it's got to be something different than I've ever had before. That's kind of one of my guidelines. And it's got to be something that is frankly like research, you know? Like if somebody has something, you know, I had a drink not too long ago and it had kind of like a lemon aperitif in it that I had never heard
Hmm.
of before. And I was like, that's interesting. Let me try that. But I only ended up having like maybe a third of that drink because it wasn't that great. You know, and I was like, I'm going to pay for it the next day or I'm going to have to do an extra workout just to pay that one off. So I was like, no thanks. But it was worth it for the research and to know like that's not I don't need to go further into that into that
Yeah,
one.
that's not the direction you want to go, but interesting to try it. And
Yeah.
yeah, like I feel like right now I'm totally happy without it. I think there's so many great alternatives like Curious Elixirs. There's so many great options that I just really don't need that. And I find that it's more having something in my hand or something that I am enjoying, I guess,
Mm.
that fills that like void, I guess, you know. And
Yeah.
are you drinking a Curious Elixir right now?
I'm drinking 2 different Curious Elixirs right
Oh, do you
now.
mix them? You mix them? Well, tell the people. What are you mixing?
Yeah. Well, this one is we're going for kind of there's a drink called the Spaghetti, which is basically like a Miller High Life with like a half ounce of Aperol in the top. And
Oh,
so what I'm doing right now is having some of our spritz, Curious number 4, which is our Sicilian spritz, and Curious Zero, which is our new craft beer. So together you get a little bit of this citrus. It almost gives it like a shandy kind of vibe, you know, where you mix like beer and lemonade.
okay.
So it's an experiment. You know, I would necessarily like, you know, I'm enjoying it, but I think that we love people who are going to tinker and like garnish with abandon, you know, where they take their own ingredients and mix it and see what works for them. Again, it's just kind of in the cause of experimentation and seeing what works for you, you know, much like some people love a cold plunge and a sauna and other people are like, nope, not for me, you know. It just
Yeah.
depends on the person. Like whatever works for the person is what works for the person.
Yeah, and I like the concept of having fun with it and mixing and trying new things, and they're interesting complex flavors that you could give it new life. You mix it with something else or add some fruit to it or whatever. Like nothing says we you can't have fun with it even though there's no alcohol, right? So
Yeah, life is more fun when you mix it up.
yeah. Now I find your backstory interesting because you were in the bar and restaurant industry. So having been there and then shift away from that because it's not something that aligns with you anymore. What was that transition like? And being in that atmosphere?
Well, I'd say when I was first starting, you know, to drink less and then basically being on the verge of not drinking at all, it was a challenge because there weren't different options for people like me. You know, when I was like, I opened a whiskey bar with my brother and with a couple other partners back in 2010, and the whiskey bar is still there. It's about a mile up the street from where I am now in Brooklyn. And when I went and talked to my partners about this idea, they were like, We're in the booze business, man. Like that's what we do here."
Yeah.
But they even said, you know, like, "Hey, maybe I just don't get it, but it's not really for what we do here." And I was like, "This is an opportunity to make more money, you know, serving people and serving a whole nother clientele um, that are going to be missing out." And you look now, 10 years down the road, places that don't have good non alcoholic options like Curious on their menu are closing or they're losing money.
Mm.
Because 41% of people who go out these days aren't drinking alcohol. That's a huge number. You know, there was a piece in the New York Times yesterday about nightclubs closing in New York because alcohol sales are down. And it's not just because alcohol sales are down, it's because they're not replacing it with what people want now, you know?
Mhm.
Um, they also don't want to spend $25 on a drink. So they need to be pricing things correctly. But the thing that has changed so much is that the culture is changing because the people are changing. The people that they're in their 20s and 30s now that are going out, and I'm in my 40s, when they're going out now, they're not necessarily looking to have 3 martinis at dinner. They might have one drink and then want something non-alcoholic, or they might want nothing at all, but they still want to have a fancy drink like Curious. But the initial years were really tough, Kimberly. I mean, we got denied by beverage director after beverage director. And it was only when we started going to the most high-end places, the Michelin star places, where they immediately got it, because they're in the business of nourishing people first and foremost. And they're like, you know what? I do have a lot of clients who come in here who don't drink, and our bartenders are always spending like 10 minutes trying to make them something special. So it would be wonderful if we had something that we knew every time is going to be a well-crafted drink that isn't going to take my bartender away from all of the other people that they have to serve. So that's when we started to see success. It wasn't when we were going to a dive bar or when we were going to a nightclub right out of the gate. It was always the places where they had the customer in mind first, and they were about nourishing people first and foremost.
I love that. It's unexpected, but Curious Elixirs is in Daniel and the French Laundry. You're in nightclubs like the House of Yes, right? So you have found a home in that industry, which I love, because I'm the consumer. I want to go to a fancy restaurant and I want to have something that feels good, tastes good, looks good, can be put in a fancy glass. Are they serving it straight up basically, or are they mixing it, doing kind of something different with the Curious Elixir?
Most places are at least doing something interesting with the garnish game to make it their own and to make it feel fancy and celebratory. Like if people are taking Curious #1 on Negroni Spagliato, they might garnish it with an orange peel or torch some rosemary and put it in there, if they want to make it really theatrical. It depends on the place and it depends on the menu. But these are really designed to do that, just like any high quality product that is going to go into, like a top tier restaurant. They're going to make it their own based on what is going on with their menu. And we really encourage that, and we want to hear active feedback from people. It is really important for us. When we first reached out to Grant Achatz from Alinea, who carries Curious in Chicago, he was saying like he was taking Curious #1 and making a reduction of it and pouring it onto like a dish, and we're like, that's amazing. Like, go nuts, like have a good time. And also I was fanboying so hard when I got that DM. I was just like, oh my gosh, like what's happening? But that's what we encourage. We encourage experimentation and for people to make it their own. Some people use Curious Elixirs as ingredients in their own non-alcoholic cocktails. And we even made Curious Elixir #8 specifically for that, where it's more of like a non-alcoholic spirit that people can mix into their own creations. But really, you can do that with any Curious Elixir.
What's your favorite?
Oh, I love all my children.
I know, I was going to say, like your favorite kid. Not going to give us a favorite. Okay. What do you see as the future of this industry with non-alcoholic beverages, or maybe what do you see for Curious going forward?
Well, what I see, we've been doing this for a decade now, and I'd say, it's the beginning of the second act of the opera, Kimberly. It's still very early. For our mission, we're focused on the next 30 years. It's going to take 40 to 80 years for us to really change culture. Us and other brands, we're getting there kind of step by step. You gotta win it one bar stool at a time. And that is really what we're focused on for the next 30 years, is to change culture so that when we get there, my hope is that when my daughter is attending, a wedding, decades from now, that when people are raising a toast, they're raising a glass of Curious alongside the champagne. That is the goal. That every wedding, every comedy club, every business networking conference, every restaurant, every house party has a high quality non-alcoholic drink where it's just not even a thing whether you're drinking alcohol or you're not. The only thing that is important is that it's high quality and that you're toasting your friends and family, the people that you love. That's what's most important. It's not as important, whether you're drinking alcohol or not. It's just matters that you're toasting each other and you're seeing how it feels for you in the moment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How old is your daughter?
My daughter will be 3 in June, and she'll be a guest also at something I'm really excited for this year, which is the Great Curious Cocktail Party. So since it's an early evening party, she can come.
I love it.
And there's no alcohol, so it's great. But we have this thing called the Great Curious Cocktail Party where we throw 100 parties in 100 cities all on one night. And
Mm.
that's going to be very fun. This will be our 3rd year doing it, and it'll be May 14th. And we've already got party hosts in over 100 cities. They're going to be throwing some curious shindigs all over the place. So that's going to be really fun.
Are these like bars or restaurants, private homes? What are these
All
parties?
of the above. Last year when we did it, we had a bonfire going on the beach with some of our curious customers in San Diego, and then singer-songwriters were, doing a pop-up concert in somebody's backyard in Nashville, and there was a speed dating event in Buckhead in Atlanta, Georgia, and then we had, 200 people here at Club Curious in Brooklyn at our little speakeasy here. So it's a different party all over the place. People, over 370 people applied to be party hosts this year. And we were just saying, like, hey, what kind of party do you want to throw? We'll provide the drinks, you provide the people. Let us know what kind of party you want to throw. And people come up with some wild ideas. And we just love to see what people come up with. They just want an excuse to celebrate life. And we just want to be a supporting character in that.
I love that. How does someone apply to do a party?
Well, the applications are now closed, but anybody can join.
Okay.
But follow us on Instagram. We're going to have a list and a map of all the different parties across the country and which ones people can go attend. And we're in, I think, 43 out of 50 states and over 100 cities. So we got pretty good coverage. Yeah, it's going to be super
Very
fun.
cool. Very, very cool. Now, I feel like you are very into health and wellness, like in general, obviously based on the intention that you've woven into your product. But can you talk a little bit about, are there any rituals that you do? Are you into sauna, cold plunge? What are some wellness things that you do? Yeah.
Well, I try to exercise Monday through Friday. So every day, move your body at least a little bit. Even if you could just get 2 minutes, that's really important just to stretch and do something. Somebody asked like Richard Branson, like, what's the number one piece of advice for running a business? And he said, work out. Like, that's great advice. The other thing I do cold showers and sauna, which I think is very helpful. And I try to do meditation every day, even if it's not like a full 20 minutes in the morning and a full 20 minutes at night, at least 2 minutes in the morning and 2 minutes at night. Anybody can make time for those 2 minutes. And even just, just taking 30 seconds for yourself in your day, it's going to change how you feel. And so I think that's really important. The other thing I do and that really helps with my mental health is I play 5 minutes of music a day. It kind of gets me out of my head. It's kind of a fun thing that's creative and there's no stakes. I'm not a musician. I'm not performing for anybody else. It's just having fun with it. And so doing something creative, I'd say for 5 minutes, if you can piece these things together, all together, it's only going to be an hour of your day to do these things that are going to make you feel wonderful, and you're going to be more productive in all of the work that you are doing.
Yeah. What instrument do you play?
There's a few. So I'm not great at any of them, but I've got some keyboards and synthesizers, some drum machines, bass, guitar, vocals. I try to do what's called around the world, where I play each instrument for like a minute.
Oh, you got like a full on band though. Is what it
Yeah,
sounds like.
it's fun, but it's all in good fun. It's not, it's not for anybody else. It's just 5 minutes of creativity. Some people, friends of mine, they'll just sit down and they'll draw for 5 minutes, and that can just
Mhm.
it just changes your brain and it changes how you feel to do something that isn't just staring at a screen. And to get a little bit out of your head and a little bit more into your flow state.
I love that. I think it's important that what you said, that meditation, people think, "Oh, if I don't have 30 minutes to sit down and meditate, like it's useless." But a couple minutes here, a couple minutes there of that quiet. I actually just got back from a Zen Buddhist meditation retreat in Switzerland. So I I meditated over, well, around like 3 hours a day, and did a lot of yoga and all of that. So I
Wow.
did come back feeling super, super zen. And then, you get back into your routine and you realize how little time you've left in your schedule to actually do those things. But fit it in where you can, because it will pay dividends for sure.
Yeah, I
And I
figured out a
love,
little I figured out a little hack for that for myself because
yeah.
we each get, wrapped up in our day, and I figured out that if I leave 5 minutes early to go pick up my daughter at the end of the day, I can just
Mhm.
sit in the car and meditate for 5 minutes before I get out and pick her up from her daycare. And I
Love
was
it.
like "Oh, this can fit in every day," and even if it's just 5 minutes, it's a time to slow down, and then I'm so much more present in my time with her because I'm not like next thing, next thing, next thing. What do I got to do? What do I got to do? What do I got to do? And
Yeah.
'cause it's so easy to fall into that trap. It's kind of natural when you're trying to achieve lots of stuff.
Yes. Is there anything else you want to tell our audience about Curious Elixirs, about your business?
Oh gosh. I just say, go on and take our flavor quiz on curiouselixirs.com, and it'll both take you through kind of like what flavors you like and also maybe what you're looking for. Like, are you looking to de-stress? Are you looking to get energy? Like, are you looking for immunity boost? These are different things that adaptogens can help you with. And we designed Curious to be kind of like a primer so that you can familiarize yourself with these different, herbal remedies and adaptogens. And just consider it as a way to kind of experiment with them without having to buy $500 worth of supplements. We're not supplement level doses. These are all small doses to see how they work for you. So since you have such a wellness focused, kind of audience, I think that
Mhm.
that's a good way to try out a lot of these different herbal remedies without going like off the deep end. And
Yeah.
so I think that's a kind of a fun one to try out. Other than that, if people are looking to start their own business or do anything in their life, I think that it's really important to just make time for that every day in just small ways. You don't have to swing for the fences right out of the gate. Just take little, it's like atomic habits. It's like just take little
Mhm.
tiny bites off of it every single day.
Yeah, and move you forward, no
Yeah.
matter what. I think if the intention is there, it'll get you to where you want to go.
Yeah.
Because this is the cinnamon effect, and you'd like to use cinnamon as a metaphor for what I think makes life sweeter, healthier, more fulfilling. I want to know, what is your cinnamon effect?
Ooh. My cinnamon effect, I think, is to add a little bit of salt to everything. Like it's just, there's something that even if you're having something sweet or if you're having something that's a little spicy, we actually add a little bit of salt to lots of our drinks because it brightens everything up. And
Mm.
you can take things too far, but it's all about the dosage. So if you're going to heat things up with spice in your life, you can't take things too hot or you'll overheat. But a little bit of salt can go a long way.
Ah, I like that. I'm going to give you the award for the most unique answer to that question.
Wow, I'll take it. Thank you, Kimberly.
But I like that, kind of like swing the other way, like with the salt, balance it out a little bit, which is a good lesson in life in general, right?
Yeah, and local honey. I mean, come on, if you're gonna have things that'll be a little sweeter, Definitely have some local honey, right?
Love the local honey. What is the strangest wellness thing that you do in your life?
The strangest wellness thing that I do in my life. Mm, I mean, I guess, regular breath work. I don't think it's necessarily super mainstream yet,
Yeah.
but, I was lucky to train with Wim Hof at Summit Series, years ago. And I think it's, especially in times when I'm feeling like especially stressed out,
Mm-hmm.
there's no substitute for taking, 10 minutes and just doing some breath work. It really helps to regulate the system, in similar ways to like doing, sauna and cold plunge.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but breath work, I think, is a little bit more palatable for people to try out.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know if it's like super strange, but, you know, I think it's really effective.
Yeah.
Even just box breathing, like the, 4 seconds of each, like inhale, hold, exhale, hold, 4 seconds of
Yeah.
each. Super helpful, super basic, but really great for a lot of people.
Yeah, I love that. I think my visual mind likes the idea of the box, and I can see it and it makes sense to me. And so I think for people in general, when they're trying to incorporate anything wellness wise into their lives, see how it fits, and see what makes sense to you, because not everything's going to make sense to you, right? Like there's a lot of things circulating and people talking about a lot of stuff, and not all of it is going to be right for you, so you have to be discerning with that. And I think, like with the Curious Elixirs too, if you're thinking about cutting back on alcohol, which is what I did in the beginning, was replace one drink with something that's non-alcoholic and start there and see how you progress. um it was such an amazing decision that I made to do that, and I realize it's not the same, it's not linear for everyone, but I kind of started that way. Like, let me just try one non-alcoholic beverage in the mix of what I'm doing, and then kind of
Yeah.
decrease from there and see how this progresses for me.
Yeah, I love that. And
Yeah,
you gave yourself permission to just try it for the day,
yeah,
and that I think is really helpful because then you wake up the next day and you're like, "Oh, I don't have as bad a hangover or I don't have any hangover at all." And
yeah,
then the things start to compound over time where you're like, "Wow, my level of clarity just keeps getting bigger and bigger and now my energy level is getting higher." So,
mhm,
if you can just start with today, there's no telling where it's going to go.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Thank you so much, JW, for being here and telling us all about Curious Elixirs. You were a treat. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Kimberly. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Thanks for tuning into this episode of The Cinnamon Effect. If you enjoyed our time together, don't forget to hit that follow button on your podcast app and sprinkle a little love by leaving us a 5-star rating and a quick review. Your support means the world to me. For even more goodness, check out the show notes where you'll find links to some of my favorite products. And don't forget to visit thecinnamoneffect.com to connect with me directly or to grab your TCE gratitude journal, your next step towards a more grateful life. I can't wait to spice things up with you again next time. Stay vibrant, stay inspired, and remember to add a little cinnamon to your life every day.